Question 1. Operational review demonstrates that the current admissions application processing at the American Academy of Art is experiencing significant delays, leading to a backlog of incomplete applications and a decline in applicant satisfaction. The admissions committee is seeking to optimize this process to improve efficiency and turnaround time. Which of the following approaches best addresses this operational challenge while adhering to the principles of fair and equitable admissions? Option A. Significantly reduce the number of review stages for all applications to expedite the process, even if it means less detailed scrutiny of individual portfolios. Option B. Outsource the initial portfolio review to a third-party service that offers the fastest turnaround times, without conducting an internal audit of their evaluation methodology. Option C. Introduce a lottery system for selecting a portion of applicants to bypass the standard review process, thereby reducing the overall workload. Option D. Implement a new digital submission system that automatically flags applications with missing information for immediate follow-up, while also standardizing the initial review criteria for all applicants to ensure consistent evaluation. Correct answer is D. Implement a new digital submission system that automatically flags applications with missing information for immediate follow-up, while also standardizing the initial review criteria for all applicants to ensure consistent evaluation. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the institution's need for efficient resource allocation with the ethical imperative to provide a fair and equitable admissions process. The American Academy of Art, like any educational institution, operates under guidelines that ensure transparency and fairness in its admissions procedures. The challenge lies in optimizing operational processes without compromising these fundamental principles. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the admissions workflow to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies, followed by the implementation of targeted improvements that enhance speed and accuracy without introducing bias or compromising the integrity of the evaluation process. This aligns with the general principles of good governance and operational management expected of educational institutions, ensuring that resources are used effectively while maintaining a high standard of fairness. While specific regulations for art school admissions are not detailed in a general framework, the overarching principle of fair and transparent evaluation is paramount. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness would fail to uphold the integrity of the admissions process. This could lead to overlooking qualified candidates or admitting less suitable ones, undermining the institution's reputation and educational mission. Another incorrect approach that involves arbitrary changes to evaluation criteria without proper justification or consultation would violate principles of fairness and consistency, potentially leading to discriminatory practices. Furthermore, an approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on the quality of the admissions review would be ethically unsound, as it could devalue the applicant pool and the institution's commitment to selecting talented individuals. Professionals in admissions and operations should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the objectives of the review. E.g., improving efficiency, maintaining fairness. This should be followed by data gathering to understand the current process, identifying potential areas for improvement. Solutions should then be developed, considering their impact on all stakeholders, including applicants, admissions staff, and the institution. Finally, implemented solutions should be monitored and evaluated for effectiveness and adherence to ethical and institutional guidelines. Question 2. The evaluation methodology shows that the American Academy of Art entrance exam seeks to assess an applicant's foundational artistic skills and creative potential, considering the implicit ethical and academic standards expected of aspiring artists. Which of the following approaches to portfolio submission best aligns with these principles? Option A. Submitting a portfolio that heavily relies on digital manipulation and filters to enhance existing imagery, with minimal original drawing or painting. Option B. Submitting a portfolio that includes a significant portion of work created collaboratively with other students, without clearly delineating individual contributions. Option C. Submitting a portfolio that showcases a diverse range of original artworks, demonstrating personal style, technical proficiency, and conceptual exploration. Option D. Submitting a portfolio that meticulously replicates the styles and techniques of renowned artists, aiming to impress with technical mastery of established aesthetics. The correct answer is C. Submitting a portfolio that showcases a diverse range of original artworks, demonstrating personal style, technical proficiency, and conceptual exploration. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only artistic talent, but also an understanding of the foundational principles that underpin artistic integrity and academic honesty, as implicitly assessed by the American Academy of Arts entrance exam. The challenge lies in discerning between genuine creative expression and the unauthorized appropriation of existing work, which is a critical ethical consideration in the art world and academic institutions. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the applicant's submission reflects their own development and understanding, rather than a misrepresentation of their capabilities. The correct approach involves the applicant submitting original work that clearly demonstrates their personal artistic vision, technical skills, and conceptual thinking. This aligns with the implicit regulatory and ethical guidelines of academic institutions, which expect applicants to present their own efforts and achievements. By submitting original work, the applicant adheres to principles of academic integrity, which prohibit plagiarism and misrepresentation. This approach ensures that the evaluation is based on the applicant's true abilities and potential, fostering a fair and transparent admissions process. An incorrect approach would be to submit work that is heavily influenced by or directly copies the style or content of another artist without proper attribution or transformation. This constitutes a failure to uphold academic integrity and can be considered a form of plagiarism. Such an approach misrepresents the applicant's own creative capacity and understanding of artistic principles. It undermines the purpose of an entrance exam, which is to assess individual merit and potential. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of ethical awareness regarding intellectual property and originality, which are fundamental values in any artistic or academic community. Another incorrect approach would be to submit work that is technically proficient, but lacks personal expression or conceptual depth, appearing to be a mere exercise in imitation rather than a demonstration of individual artistic voice. While not outright plagiarism, this approach fails to meet the implicit expectation of an entrance exam to showcase an applicant's unique perspective and potential for growth within the field. It suggests a superficial engagement with the artistic process, prioritizing technical replication over genuine creative exploration. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a thorough understanding of academic integrity policies and ethical artistic practices. Applicants should always strive to present their own original work, clearly demonstrating their personal style, ideas, and technical abilities. When drawing inspiration from other artists, it is crucial to engage in a transformative process and, where appropriate, acknowledge influences. The core principle is honesty and authenticity in representing one's own creative output and intellectual contributions. Question 3. The risk matrix shows a potential for applicants to submit work that, while technically proficient, may not fully represent their own original creative development. Considering the American Academy of Arts' commitment to fostering original artistic talent, which of the following approaches best addresses this risk during the entrance exam evaluation process? Option A. Conduct a detailed review of the applicant's portfolio and any accompanying statements to identify potential instances of uncredited work or significant reliance on existing sources, seeking clarification from the applicant if necessary. Option B. Prioritize technical execution and aesthetic appeal above all else, overlooking any potential concerns about the originality or conceptual basis of the submitted artwork. Option C. Accept all submitted portfolios at face value, assuming all applicants are submitting entirely original work without any external influence or assistance. Option D. Immediately disqualify any applicant whose submitted work bears a resemblance to established artistic styles or the work of known artists, regardless of the applicant's stated process. The correct answer is A. Conduct a detailed review of the applicant's portfolio and any accompanying statements to identify potential instances of uncredited work or significant reliance on existing sources, seeking clarification from the applicant if necessary. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of artistic integrity and academic honesty, which are paramount for admission to an institution like the American Academy of Art. The challenge lies in discerning between genuine creative expression and plagiarism or misrepresentation, a distinction crucial for maintaining academic standards and fostering a culture of originality. Careful judgment is required to assess the applicant's intent and the nature of their submitted work. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's portfolio and supporting materials, looking for any evidence of uncredited work or significant deviation from their stated creative process. This aligns with the American Academy of Arts' implicit commitment to academic integrity and the development of original artistic talent. Admissions committees are ethically bound to evaluate applicants based on their own merit and creative output, ensuring a fair and transparent process. This approach upholds the value of individual artistic voice and discourages academic dishonesty. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the applicant solely based on a superficial resemblance of their work to existing styles or artists without further investigation. This fails to acknowledge the influence of artistic heritage and the learning process inherent in art education. Another incorrect approach would be to accept the applicant without any scrutiny of their submitted work, assuming all submissions are original. This neglects the responsibility of the institution to uphold academic standards and could lead to the admission of individuals who do not meet the expected level of integrity. A third incorrect approach would be to focus solely on technical skill without considering the originality and conceptual basis of the artwork, potentially overlooking instances of unacknowledged inspiration or direct copying. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes due diligence, ethical consideration, and a balanced assessment of all submitted materials. This involves establishing clear criteria for evaluating originality, seeking corroborating evidence if concerns arise, and making decisions that are fair, transparent, and consistent with the institution's values and academic mission. Question 4. System analysis indicates that an applicant to the American Academy of Art entrance exam has submitted a portfolio that includes a digital painting exhibiting stylistic similarities to a widely published contemporary artist's work, raising concerns about originality. The applicant's statement of intent does not mention any specific influences or mentorship related to this particular style. The admissions committee must decide how to proceed. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action, adhering to the principles of academic integrity and fair evaluation as expected by the American Academy of Art? Option A. Admit the applicant without comment, prioritizing the overall quality of the portfolio and overlooking the potential issue to avoid administrative complications. Option B. Contact the contemporary artist directly to inquire about their knowledge of the applicant's work and any potential collaboration. Option C. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire portfolio and research the stylistic similarities to determine if the work is derivative or an independent exploration of a similar aesthetic, potentially requesting further clarification from the applicant. Option D. Immediately reject the applicant's portfolio due to the strong stylistic resemblance, assuming plagiarism or undue influence without further investigation. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire portfolio and research the stylistic similarities to determine if the work is derivative or an independent exploration of a similar aesthetic, potentially requesting further clarification from the applicant. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of academic integrity and the ethical implications of misrepresenting one's qualifications, even at the entrance exam stage. The American Academy of Art, like any reputable institution, has a vested interest in admitting students who are honest and possess genuine artistic aptitude. The challenge lies in identifying and addressing potential dishonesty without being overly punitive, while still upholding the integrity of the admissions process. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between genuine mistakes and deliberate deception. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of the applicant's submitted portfolio against the stated requirements and any evidence of external assistance. This approach prioritizes factual verification and adherence to the American Academy of Art's stated admissions policies regarding originality and independent work. The regulatory and ethical justification stems from the fundamental principle of academic honesty, which is paramount in educational institutions. Misrepresenting one's work undermines the fairness of the admissions process for all applicants and devalues the qualifications awarded by the institution. The Academy's guidelines, implicitly or explicitly, require applicants to present their own original creations. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the applicant based on a single piece of work that appears questionable, without further investigation. This fails to account for potential misunderstandings of the prompt or the possibility of unintentional similarities. It also bypasses the due process that an applicant should reasonably expect. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the discrepancy and admit the applicant, thereby compromising the integrity of the admissions process and potentially admitting a student who has not met the fundamental requirements of demonstrating independent artistic skill. This would set a dangerous precedent and could lead to future issues with the student's academic performance and ethical conduct. A third incorrect approach would be to confront the applicant with accusations of plagiarism without concrete evidence or a structured process for them to respond, which could be unfair and damaging to their reputation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic review of all submitted materials, cross-referencing with stated requirements and guidelines. If discrepancies arise, a neutral and objective investigation should be initiated. This might involve seeking clarification from the applicant, consulting with faculty members experienced in the relevant artistic discipline, and comparing the work against known examples or common artistic tropes. The ultimate decision should be based on a preponderance of evidence and in strict accordance with the American Academy of Arts' established admissions policies and ethical standards. Question 5. The control framework reveals that an applicant to the American Academy of Art presents a compelling portfolio demonstrating exceptional artistic talent and a deep passion for their chosen field. However, their traditional academic GPA falls below the stated minimum requirement for admission, and they have not provided standardized test scores. The admissions committee member responsible for initial review is aware of the applicant's unique circumstances and potential, but also of the established institutional guidelines. What is the most appropriate course of action for this committee member? Option A. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire application, including their portfolio, personal statement, and any supplementary materials, to assess their artistic potential and suitability for the program, and then present their findings and recommendation to the full admissions committee for a collective decision. Option B. Immediately reject the applicant based on their GPA being below the stated minimum, as per institutional policy, without further consideration of their artistic achievements. Option C. Advocate for the applicant's immediate admission to the admissions committee, bypassing the standard review process due to the exceptional quality of their portfolio. Option D. Suggest the applicant retake certain academic courses to improve their GPA before reapplying, without a comprehensive evaluation of their artistic merit in the current application cycle. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire application, including their portfolio, personal statement, and any supplementary materials, to assess their artistic potential and suitability for the program, and then present their findings and recommendation to the full admissions committee for a collective decision. Explanation. The control framework reveals a common challenge in academic admissions, balancing the desire to support promising but unconventional applicants with the need to maintain academic standards and adhere to established institutional policies. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an admissions committee member to navigate subjective artistic merit against objective academic criteria and institutional guidelines, all while ensuring fairness and transparency in the process. The pressure to make an exception for a talented individual can conflict with the duty to uphold the integrity of the admissions process for all applicants. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's portfolio and supporting materials against the stated admissions criteria for the American Academy of Art. This includes assessing how the applicant's unique background and demonstrated passion for art align with the program's objectives, even if their traditional academic record is less conventional. The justification for this approach lies in the American Academy of Art's stated mission to foster artistic talent, which implies a degree of flexibility in evaluating applicants who may not fit a standard mold but possess exceptional artistic potential. Adhering to established, transparent evaluation processes ensures fairness and prevents arbitrary decision-making. Upholding ethical standards in admissions. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the applicant based solely on a lower-than-average GPA, without a comprehensive review of their artistic portfolio and any mitigating circumstances. This fails to acknowledge the unique nature of artistic talent assessment and the potential for non-traditional academic paths to lead to artistic success. Another incorrect approach would be to bypass established admissions committee procedures to unilaterally admit the student due to perceived talent, as this undermines institutional governance, fairness to other applicants, and the principle of collective decision-making. Finally, an approach that prioritizes personal connections or subjective biases over objective evaluation criteria would be ethically unsound and violate principles of equitable admissions. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the institution's mission and admissions policies. This involves a systematic evaluation of all application components, including academic records, portfolios, essays, and recommendations. When faced with unconventional applications, the process should include a discussion within the admissions committee to explore how the applicant's strengths align with program goals and whether any flexibility in interpretation of criteria is warranted and permissible under existing guidelines. Transparency and consistency in applying evaluation standards are paramount to maintaining the integrity of the admissions process. Question 6. Strategic planning requires a proactive approach to managing potential challenges. The admissions department at the American Academy of Art is facing a significant budget shortfall for the upcoming academic year. A promising applicant, whose portfolio demonstrates considerable raw talent but whose academic record is below the typical admission threshold, has expressed a strong desire to enroll and has the financial means to pay tuition upfront. The department head is considering recommending the applicant's admission despite the academic concerns, citing the immediate financial benefit. Which of the following approaches best aligns with responsible institutional governance and ethical admissions practices? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment that evaluates the applicant's potential for success in the program, considering their portfolio and any mitigating factors, while ensuring adherence to all established admissions policies and accreditation standards. Option B. Admit the student immediately to address the budget shortfall, prioritizing the financial contribution over the standard academic evaluation. Option C. Focus solely on the applicant's ability to pay tuition upfront, as this directly alleviates the immediate financial pressure on the department. Option D. Leverage personal connections or exert pressure on the admissions committee to overlook the academic deficiencies due to the applicant's financial capacity. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment that evaluates the applicant's potential for success in the program, considering their portfolio and any mitigating factors, while ensuring adherence to all established admissions policies and accreditation standards. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for resources with the long-term integrity of the institution and the ethical obligations to prospective students. The American Academy of Art, like any educational institution, operates under a framework of regulations and ethical guidelines designed to ensure fair admissions practices and responsible financial management. A hasty decision based solely on immediate financial pressure could lead to violations of these principles. The correct approach involves a thorough risk assessment that considers multiple factors beyond immediate financial needs. This includes evaluating the applicant's qualifications against the program's standards, assessing the potential impact on the student body's academic profile, and ensuring compliance with all relevant admissions policies and accreditation standards. This approach upholds the institution's commitment to academic excellence and fair treatment of all applicants, aligning with the ethical imperative to admit students who can succeed and benefit from the program, and avoiding any appearance of impropriety or preferential treatment driven by financial considerations. Admitting the student solely based on the potential for immediate tuition payment, without a proper assessment of their academic readiness or program fit, represents a failure to uphold academic standards and potentially misleads the student about their suitability for the program. This could lead to academic difficulties for the student and damage the institution's reputation. Focusing only on the financial benefit and overlooking the student's portfolio and academic background demonstrates a disregard for the core mission of an art academy, which is to cultivate artistic talent and provide a rigorous education. This approach prioritizes revenue over educational quality and ethical admissions. Seeking external pressure or influence to bypass standard admissions procedures is a serious ethical breach. It undermines the integrity of the admissions process and creates an unfair advantage, violating principles of equal opportunity and merit-based selection. Professionals in educational admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of institutional mission and values. This is followed by a systematic evaluation of all admissions criteria, including academic merit, portfolio quality, and alignment with program goals. Any decision that deviates from these established criteria must be justified by a comprehensive risk assessment that considers potential impacts on academic integrity, student success, and institutional reputation, always in adherence to regulatory and ethical guidelines. Question 7. The performance metrics show a significant increase in student portfolio submissions that meet industry-standard quality benchmarks, but also reveal a decline in the average completion rate for elective art history courses. The Dean of Admissions is requesting a summary for the upcoming prospective student recruitment materials that emphasizes the Academy's strengths. Which of the following approaches best balances the need to attract students with ethical reporting standards? Option A. Create a narrative that emphasizes the overall artistic talent and potential of the student body, using anecdotal evidence of success without directly referencing specific performance metrics for either portfolios or course completion rates. Option B. Focus exclusively on the impressive improvement in portfolio quality, showcasing exemplary student work and testimonials, and omit any mention of the decline in elective course completion rates to maintain a positive recruitment message. Option C. Highlight the strong portfolio performance and suggest that the decline in elective course completion is due to students prioritizing their studio work, implying this is a positive indicator of dedication to their artistic craft. Option D. Present a detailed report on the improved portfolio quality, highlighting specific student projects and their professional relevance, while also including a brief statement, acknowledging the completion rate trend in elective courses and outlining new strategies being implemented to support student engagement in those areas. Correct answer is D. Present a detailed report on the improved portfolio quality, highlighting specific student projects and their professional relevance, while also including a brief statement, acknowledging the completion rate trend in elective courses and outlining new strategies being implemented to support student engagement in those areas. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the desire to showcase student achievement with the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and avoid misrepresentation. The pressure to present a positive image of the American Academy of Art to prospective students and donors can lead to overlooking or downplaying less favorable data. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all information presented is accurate, transparent, and ethically sound, aligning with the Academy's commitment to honest representation. The correct approach involves presenting a nuanced and comprehensive overview of student performance, acknowledging both successes and areas for improvement. This demonstrates a commitment to transparency and continuous development, which is ethically sound and builds trust with stakeholders. By providing context and actionable insights, the Academy upholds its integrity and fosters a culture of honest self-assessment. This approach aligns with general ethical principles of honesty and integrity expected in educational institutions, emphasizing accurate reporting of outcomes. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on highlighting exceptional student work without acknowledging broader performance trends would be misleading. This fails to provide a complete picture and could create unrealistic expectations for prospective students. Ethically, it constitutes a form of misrepresentation by omission. Another incorrect approach, which involves selectively omitting data points that reflect lower performance in certain areas, is also a failure of transparency and academic honesty. This deliberate exclusion of relevant information distorts the reality of student outcomes and violates the principle of truthful reporting. A third incorrect approach, which might involve attributing student success to factors not directly supported by the performance metrics, would be an act of fabrication or exaggeration, directly contravening ethical standards of accuracy and integrity. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes transparency, accuracy, and ethical conduct. This involves first thoroughly analyzing all available performance data, identifying both strengths and weaknesses. Next, they should consider the intended audience and the purpose of the communication, ensuring that the information presented is relevant and appropriately contextualized. The decision should then be made to communicate findings in a manner that is truthful, comprehensive, and avoids any form of embellishment or omission that could mislead stakeholders. This process ensures that decisions are grounded in ethical principles and professional responsibility, fostering a culture of integrity within the institution. Question 8. Market research demonstrates that prospective students often draw inspiration from existing artistic works when developing their portfolios for art school entrance exams. Considering the American Academy of Arts' emphasis on originality and ethical creative practice, which of the following approaches to gathering inspiration for an entrance exam portfolio is most aligned with the institution's values and expectations? Option A. Presenting a portfolio that includes a narrative about artistic influences without providing any visual examples or demonstrating how those influences have been integrated into the applicant's own work. Option B. Creating a portfolio that heavily features reproductions of famous artworks with minor alterations to demonstrate an understanding of the original pieces. Option C. Selecting a few successful contemporary artists whose work is popular and directly incorporating their signature styles and compositional elements into the portfolio pieces. Option D. Thoroughly studying the techniques, themes, and historical context of various artists, then using this understanding to develop entirely new concepts and visual expressions that reflect personal interpretation and artistic voice. Correct answer is D. Thoroughly studying the techniques, themes, and historical context of various artists, then using this understanding to develop entirely new concepts and visual expression that reflect personal interpretation and artistic voice. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of how to ethically and effectively gather information for a creative project, specifically within the context of an art academy's entrance exam. The challenge lies in balancing the need for authentic inspiration with the ethical imperative to respect intellectual property and avoid misrepresentation. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the research process is both productive for the applicant's artistic development and compliant with academic integrity standards. The correct approach involves a systematic and ethical process of information gathering that prioritizes original observation and respectful engagement with existing works. This approach is right because it aligns with the principles of academic honesty and artistic integrity, which are fundamental to any educational institution, including the American Academy of Art. By focusing on understanding the context and inspiration behind existing art, and then translating that understanding into original work, the applicant demonstrates critical thinking and a genuine creative process. This method respects the original artists and their contributions, while fostering the applicant's unique artistic voice, a key objective for an art academy. An incorrect approach that involves directly copying or heavily relying on another artist's specific visual elements without proper attribution or transformation would be ethically unacceptable. This failure stems from a lack of respect for intellectual property and a misunderstanding of originality in art. It suggests an inability to develop independent creative ideas, which is a core requirement for art school admission. Another incorrect approach, such as fabricating research or misrepresenting sources, would be a direct violation of academic integrity policies. This demonstrates a lack of honesty and ethical grounding, which are paramount in any academic setting. Professionals in creative fields should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the research objectives. They should then identify ethical boundaries, such as respecting copyright and avoiding plagiarism. The process should involve diverse methods of information gathering, prioritizing first-hand experience and critical analysis. Finally, all sources of inspiration and influence should be acknowledged appropriately, ensuring that the final work is a genuine expression of the individual's creative vision. Question 9. The efficiency study reveals that certain sections of the American Academy of Art entrance exam may inadvertently favor applicants with specific prior educational experiences, potentially creating an uneven playing field. The admissions committee is tasked with determining the most appropriate course of action to ensure fairness and uphold the integrity of the admissions process. Which of the following represents the most responsible and ethically sound approach? Option A. Focus solely on increasing the number of applicants from underrepresented backgrounds to compensate for any perceived bias, rather than addressing the potential bias within the exam itself. Option B. Conduct a thorough review of the exam's content and scoring to identify and address any identified biases, potentially revising specific sections, or the scoring rubric to ensure equitable assessment of all applicants' artistic potential. Option C. Implement minor, superficial adjustments to the exam's presentation or wording based on committee members' subjective interpretations of the study, without a systematic analysis of the underlying issues. Option D. Disregard the efficiency study's findings, assuming the exam has been consistently applied and is therefore fair, and continue with the current admissions process without modification. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough review of the exam's content and scoring to identify and address any identified biases, potentially revising specific sections, or the scoring rubric to ensure equitable assessment of all applicants' artistic potential. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge for the American Academy of Arts Admissions Committee regarding the interpretation and application of its own entrance exam guidelines. Specifically, committee must navigate the potential for bias in the exam's design and administration, ensuring fairness and equal opportunity for all applicants, as mandated by general principles of educational equity and institutional integrity, which are implicitly expected of accredited institutions like the American Academy of Art. The challenge lies in balancing the need for a rigorous assessment with the imperative to avoid discriminatory practices, even if unintentional. The correct approach involves a thorough, evidence-based review of the exam's content and scoring mechanisms to identify any potential biases that could disadvantage specific demographic groups. This aligns with the ethical obligation of educational institutions to provide a fair and equitable admissions process. By proactively seeking to understand and mitigate bias, the committee upholds the integrity of the admissions process and ensures that all applicants are evaluated on their merit and potential, rather than on factors unrelated to their artistic aptitude. This proactive stance is crucial for maintaining the institution's reputation and commitment to diversity and inclusion. An approach that dismisses the efficiency study's findings without investigation is ethically flawed because it ignores potential systemic inequities. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the principle of fairness in admissions. Implementing changes based solely on anecdotal evidence or personal opinions without a systematic review risks introducing new biases or failing to address existing ones effectively. Furthermore, relying on outdated guidelines without considering contemporary best practices in assessment and equity can lead to an outdated and potentially discriminatory admissions process. Professionals in admissions should adopt a decision-making process that prioritizes data-driven analysis and ethical considerations. This involves 1. Acknowledging and investigating all relevant data, such as the efficiency study, to identify potential issues. 2. Conducting a systematic review of assessment tools and processes for fairness and validity. 3. Consulting with experts in educational assessment and diversity if necessary. 4. Implementing evidence-based changes to improve equity and fairness. 5. Regularly reviewing and updating admissions policies and procedures to align with evolving best practices and ethical standards. Question 10. Risk assessment procedures indicate that an applicant's portfolio demonstrates exceptional technical skill in rendering, but lacks clear narrative or conceptual depth. The American Academy of Arts entrance exam guidelines emphasize the evaluation of creative potential and the ability to develop artistic concepts, which approach best aligns with the Academy's stated assessment criteria. Option A. Evaluate the portfolio by seeking evidence of the applicant's thought process, ideation, and potential for conceptual exploration, even if the technical execution is not as polished as other submissions. Option B. Prioritize the applicant's portfolio based on the demonstrated technical mastery, assuming conceptual development can be taught. Option C. Reject the applicant due to the perceived lack of conceptual strength, as this indicates a fundamental deficiency in their artistic foundation. Option D. Focus on the applicant's past exhibition history and any awards received, as these are indicators of established artistic merit and potential. The correct answer is B. Prioritize the applicant's portfolio based on the demonstrated technical mastery, assuming conceptual development can be taught. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the applicant's portfolio, while demonstrating technical skill, may not fully align with the American Academy of Arts' stated emphasis on conceptual development and narrative storytelling, which are crucial for success in their programs. A careful judgment is required to assess the applicant's potential beyond immediate technical execution. The correct approach involves a holistic review that prioritizes understanding the applicant's creative process and potential for growth. This means looking for evidence of ideation, problem solving, and the ability to articulate the intent behind their work, even if the final pieces are technically less refined than others. This aligns with the American Academy of Arts entrance exam guidelines, which implicitly value a demonstrated capacity for artistic inquiry and development, not just raw talent. The ethical consideration here is fairness and a commitment to identifying students who will thrive within the Academy's specific educational philosophy. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical proficiency overlooks the Academy's stated educational goals. This fails to ethically consider the applicant's potential fit and future development within the institution. Another incorrect approach that dismisses the portfolio due to a perceived lack of wow factor is subjective and fails to engage with the applicant's unique artistic voice or potential for growth. This is ethically problematic as it relies on superficial judgment rather than a thorough assessment of artistic merit and potential. An approach that prioritizes applicants with a history of awards or prestigious exhibitions, without a deeper dive into the conceptual underpinnings of their work, also fails to meet the Academy's stated objectives and may overlook promising candidates who have not had such opportunities. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the institution's mission and program objectives. This framework should then guide the evaluation of each applicant's submission, looking for evidence that aligns with these objectives. It involves seeking to understand the applicant's intent, their creative process, and their potential for growth, rather than relying on purely objective or superficial metrics. This ensures a fair, ethical, and effective selection process that identifies candidates most likely to succeed and contribute to the artistic community. Question 11. Process analysis reveals that applicants to the American Academy of Art entrance exam are expected to demonstrate their individual artistic capabilities and potential for academic growth. Considering the ethical imperative of academic integrity and the goal of assessing genuine talent, which of the following approaches to portfolio submission best aligns with these principles? Option A. Submitting a portfolio that showcases a range of personal projects, demonstrating the applicant's unique style, technical skill development, and creative problem solving, with clear indication of the applicant's direct involvement in all stages of creation. Option B. Submitting a portfolio consisting of artwork that has been extensively retouched or digitally manipulated by external software or individuals to achieve a level of technical perfection beyond the applicant's current skill set. Option C. Submitting a portfolio heavily reliant on commercially available templates or digital assets with minimal original artistic input to ensure a polished and professional appearance. Option D. Submitting a portfolio where a significant portion of the artwork was created or heavily guided by a professional artist or instructor, with the applicant's role limited to minor contributions. The correct answer is A. Submitting a portfolio that showcases a range of personal projects, demonstrating the applicant's unique style, technical skill development, and creative problem solving, with clear indication of the applicant's direct involvement in all stages of creation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only artistic talent, but also an understanding of the foundational principles of art education and the ethical considerations involved in academic integrity. The American Academy of Art entrance exam, like many university entrance exams, aims to assess a candidate's readiness for rigorous academic study and their potential to contribute positively to the artistic community. The challenge lies in discerning genuine artistic development from work that may have been unduly influenced or assisted, which could misrepresent the applicant's true capabilities and preparedness. Careful judgment is required to ensure fairness to all applicants and to uphold the academic standards of the institution. The correct approach involves the applicant submitting original work that clearly reflects their personal artistic voice, skill development, and understanding of the medium. This approach is ethically justified as it adheres to principles of honesty and integrity, which are paramount in academic and professional settings. By presenting their own unassisted work, the applicant demonstrates their genuine aptitude and commitment to learning, aligning with the exam's purpose of evaluating individual merit. This also respects the integrity of the admissions process, ensuring that all candidates are assessed on a level playing field. An incorrect approach would be to submit artwork that has been significantly altered or completed by someone else. This is ethically unacceptable as it constitutes academic dishonesty and misrepresentation. It violates the principle of honesty by presenting false evidence of skill and effort. Such an action undermines the admissions process, potentially admitting students who are not adequately prepared, and devalues the achievements of honest applicants. Furthermore, it sets a precedent for future academic dishonesty, which is detrimental to the applicant's own development and the reputation of the institution. Another incorrect approach would be to submit work that, while technically proficient, shows no evidence of personal exploration or conceptual development, suggesting it was created solely to meet a perceived requirement rather than to express individual artistic ideas. This is ethically problematic because it fails to demonstrate the critical thinking and creative engagement that the Academy seeks in its students. While not outright plagiarism, it represents a lack of genuine artistic inquiry and a superficial approach to the creative process, which is not conducive to the rigorous artistic education offered by the Academy. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a commitment to honesty, transparency, and self-awareness. Applicants should critically evaluate their own work, understanding the distinction between seeking constructive feedback and receiving direct assistance that compromises originality. They should prioritize showcasing their own growth and learning journey, even if it means presenting work that is less polished but more authentic. This aligns with the broader professional ethos of continuous learning, ethical conduct, and genuine contribution to one's field. Question 12. Quality control measures reveal that a portfolio submitted by an applicant to the American Academy of Art entrance exam appears to contain work that may not be entirely the applicant's own, based on stylistic inconsistencies and a review of previous submissions. The admissions committee is under pressure to meet enrollment targets. What is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Initiate a formal review process according to the American Academy of Arts admissions policy, which includes an investigation into the authenticity of the submitted work and an opportunity for the applicant to respond to any findings. Option B. Immediately reject the applicant's submission to avoid potential issues and maintain the integrity of the admissions timeline. Option C. Accept the applicant's submission without further investigation, prioritizing enrollment targets and avoiding potential delays. Option D. Contact the applicant directly and ask them to confirm the originality of their work without initiating a formal process. The correct answer is A. Initiate a formal review process according to the American Academy of Arts admissions policy, which includes an investigation into the authenticity of the submitted work and an opportunity for the applicant to respond to any findings. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate potential conflicts between academic integrity, institutional policy, and the ethical obligations of an educator. The core of the challenge lies in upholding the standards of the American Academy of Art while ensuring a fair and unbiased assessment process for all applicants. The pressure to admit promising students, coupled with the discovery of potential policy violations, necessitates careful judgment and adherence to established guidelines. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective investigation into the alleged impropriety, strictly adhering to the American Academy of Arts admissions policies and academic integrity guidelines. This approach is correct because it prioritizes fairness, transparency, and due process for the applicant. By following established procedures, the institution upholds its commitment to academic integrity and ensures that all admissions decisions are based on merit and adherence to stated requirements. This aligns with the ethical imperative to treat all applicants equitably and to maintain the credibility of the admissions process. An incorrect approach that involves immediately dismissing the applicant without a formal review fails to uphold due process and could lead to an unfair outcome. This violates the principle of providing an opportunity for the applicant to respond to allegations and present their case, which is a fundamental aspect of ethical decision-making in academic admissions. Another incorrect approach, which is to overlook the potential violation to avoid administrative burden or potential negative publicity, compromises the integrity of the admissions process. This action implicitly condones a breach of policy and undermines the standards the American Academy of Art aims to uphold. It also sets a dangerous precedent, suggesting that rules can be bent or ignored under certain circumstances, which erodes trust in the institution. The professional decision-making process for similar situation should involve a structured, multi-step approach. First, acknowledge the reported issue and its potential implications. Second, consult the relevant institutional policies and guidelines pertaining to admissions and academic integrity. Third, initiate a formal, objective investigation, ensuring that all parties involved are treated fairly and have an opportunity to be heard. Fourth, base the final decision on the findings of the investigation and in strict accordance with established policies. Finally, document the entire process and the rationale for the decision to ensure accountability and transparency. Question 13. The audit findings indicate potential discrepancies in the allocation of scholarship funds over the past 3 academic years, suggesting a need for a review of the financial aid disbursement process. Option A. Immediately publicize the audit findings to ensure transparency with current and prospective students regarding potential financial aid issues. Option B. Dismiss the audit findings as a minor administrative oversight and proceed with the current scholarship allocation procedures without further review. Option C. Implement immediate, drastic changes to the scholarship allocation system based on the initial audit report to prevent any future occurrences. Option D. Initiate a comprehensive internal investigation to identify the root causes of the discrepancies, review relevant policies and procedures, and determine the scope of any misallocations before taking further action. The correct answer is D. Initiate a comprehensive internal investigation to identify the root causes of the discrepancies, review relevant policies and procedures, and determine the scope of any misallocations before taking further action. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for transparency and accountability with the potential for reputational damage and the need to protect student privacy. The audit findings highlight a systemic issue that could impact the American Academy of Arts standing and its commitment to ethical operations. Careful judgment is required to determine the most appropriate and legally compliant course of action. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective investigation into the audit findings, focusing on identifying the root causes of the discrepancies and potential policy or procedural failures. This approach prioritizes understanding the scope and impact of the issues before making any public statements or implementing broad changes. It aligns with the principles of good governance and responsible institutional management, which are implicitly expected of educational institutions. By conducting a detailed internal review, the Academy can gather accurate information to inform its response, ensuring that any subsequent actions are well-founded and proportionate. This proactive and investigative stance demonstrates a commitment to addressing problems effectively and ethically, rather than reacting impulsively. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the audit findings without further investigation. This fails to acknowledge the seriousness of the findings and could be interpreted as a lack of accountability or a disregard for internal controls. It also risks overlooking genuine issues that require attention, potentially leading to more significant problems down the line. Another incorrect approach would be to proactively disclose the audit findings to external parties, such as prospective students or the general public, before a thorough internal investigation is complete. This premature disclosure could cause undue alarm, damage the Academy's reputation unnecessarily, and potentially lead to legal complications if the information is inaccurate or incomplete. It also bypasses the opportunity for internal remediation. A third incorrect approach would be to implement sweeping, unresearched policy changes based solely on the initial audit findings without understanding the underlying causes. While action is necessary, hasty and ill-informed changes can create new problems, disrupt operations, and fail to address the actual issues identified, demonstrating a lack of strategic thinking and a reactive rather than proactive problem-solving methodology. Professionals should approach such situations by first activating internal review protocols. This involves forming a dedicated team to analyze the audit findings, gather all relevant data, interview stakeholders, and identify the precise nature and extent of any issues. Based on this comprehensive understanding, a strategic plan for remediation and communication can be developed, ensuring that actions are informed, ethical, and legally sound. This systematic process allows for a measured and responsible response that protects the institution's integrity and its stakeholders. Question 14. Upon reviewing the submitted portfolio for the American Academy of Art entrance exam, a prospective student realizes that one of their strongest pieces, a digital illustration, was significantly enhanced by a professional artist friend who provided advanced rendering techniques that the student had not yet mastered. The student is concerned about how to present this piece ethically. Option A. The student should submit the piece as entirely their own work, assuming that the advanced rendering will impress the admissions committee and that the extent of their friend's involvement is a minor detail. Option B. The student should remove the piece from the portfolio altogether, fearing that any mention of external assistance will automatically disqualify them. Option C. The student should claim that the advanced rendering techniques were self-taught through extensive personal practice, without mentioning their friend's direct involvement. Option D. The student should clearly state in the portfolio's accompanying statement that their friend provided significant technical assistance with the rendering, detailing the specific contributions made by the friend, while emphasizing their own conceptualization and artistic direction. The correct answer is D. The student should clearly state in the portfolio's accompanying statement that their friend provided significant technical assistance with the rendering, detailing the specific contributions made by the friend, while emphasizing their own conceptualization and artistic direction. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the desire to showcase student talent with the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and avoid misrepresentation. The pressure to create a compelling portfolio for a prestigious institution like the American Academy of Art entrance exam necessitates careful judgment in how student work is presented. The correct approach involves the student honestly representing their own contributions and acknowledging any collaborative efforts or external influences. This aligns with the ethical principles of academic honesty and integrity, which are paramount in educational settings. Specifically, the American Academy of Art entrance exam, like most reputable art institutions, expects applicants to submit work that genuinely reflects their individual skills and artistic development. Misrepresenting the origin or extent of one's contribution would be a violation of these implicit and explicit expectations, potentially leading to disqualification or a damaged reputation. An incorrect approach that involves significantly altering or fabricating elements of a submitted piece to appear more sophisticated than the student's actual skill level is ethically unsound. This constitutes academic dishonesty and misrepresentation. It undermines the purpose of the entrance exam, which is to assess a student's current abilities and potential for growth. Such deception not only violates the trust placed in the applicant, but also misleads the admissions committee about the student's true capabilities, potentially leading to placement in a program for which they are not adequately prepared. Another incorrect approach, which is to claim sole authorship of a piece that was heavily influenced or directly guided by an instructor or mentor without proper attribution, also falls short. While instructors provide guidance, the final execution and artistic decisions should be the student's. Failing to acknowledge significant external input misrepresents the student's independent artistic voice and skill development. This is a form of plagiarism or intellectual dishonesty, as it appropriates the creative input of others without due credit. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a clear understanding of the exam's guidelines and the institution's expectations regarding originality and authenticity. The student should then honestly assess their own work and its development. If there is any doubt about the ethical presentation of the work, seeking clarification from the admissions office or a trusted mentor is crucial. The guiding principle should always be transparency and genuine representation of one's abilities and creative process. Question 15. Operational review demonstrates that the American Academy of Art's marketing materials for its animation program heavily feature success stories of a few highly sought-after graduates working at major studios, while downplaying the broader employment statistics for all graduates. The admissions team is considering whether to continue this emphasis or to revise the materials to include more comprehensive data on graduate placement across various career paths, including those that are less glamorous or in related fields. Option A. Revise marketing materials to include a balanced representation of graduate outcomes, contextualizing individual successes within broader employment trends, and acknowledging the full spectrum of career paths pursued by alumni. Option B. Supplement the existing marketing materials with a separate, less prominent document detailing less successful graduate outcomes, to be provided only upon specific request. Option C. Continue to emphasize the exceptional success stories of a few prominent graduates, as these represent the aspirational potential of the program and are strong selling points. Option D. Focus marketing efforts on showcasing the artistic merit and technical skills taught in the program, without directly addressing graduate employment statistics. The correct answer is A. Revise marketing materials to include a balanced representation of graduate outcomes, contextualizing individual successes within broader employment trends, and acknowledging the full spectrum of career paths pursued by alumni. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the institution's need for accurate representation with the ethical obligation to avoid misleading prospective students. The American Academy of Art entrance exam, like many academic institutions, relies on its reputation and the perceived quality of its programs to attract applicants. However, exaggerating or misrepresenting student outcomes, even with good intentions, can lead to significant ethical breaches and potential regulatory scrutiny. Careful judgment is required to ensure that promotional materials are both compelling and truthful, adhering to principles of academic integrity and fair practice. The correct approach involves transparently presenting student outcomes, including both successes and challenges, and contextualizing achievements within realistic employment landscapes. This approach upholds the ethical principle of honesty and avoids misrepresentation. By providing a balanced view, the Academy respects the autonomy of prospective students, allowing them to make informed decisions based on accurate information. This aligns with general ethical guidelines for educational institutions that emphasize truthfulness in advertising and recruitment. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on highlighting exceptional student achievements without acknowledging the broader employment reality fails to provide a complete picture. This can mislead applicants into believing that success is guaranteed or more common than it actually is, potentially leading to disappointment and a sense of being deceived. This approach violates the ethical duty of candor and can be seen as deceptive advertising. Another incorrect approach that involves omitting data on graduates who did not secure employment in their field of study is also ethically problematic. This selective presentation of information creates a skewed perception of program success and can be considered a form of omission that misleads prospective students. It prioritizes institutional image over the applicant's right to comprehensive information. A further incorrect approach that involves using testimonials from a small, highly successful group of alumni without disclosing the broader statistical outcomes can be misleading. While testimonials can be powerful, they represent individual experiences and may not be representative of the typical graduate's career trajectory. This approach can create an unrealistic expectation for the majority of applicants. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to transparency and accuracy. Professionals should ask themselves, does this information present a complete and truthful picture of what a prospective student can expect? They should consider the potential impact of the information on the applicant's decision-making process and ensure that all claims are substantiated and presented in a balanced manner. Consulting with institutional ethics committees or legal counsel regarding marketing and recruitment practices is also a prudent step to ensure compliance with ethical standards and any applicable regulations. Question 16. The monitoring system demonstrates a potential discrepancy between the style and execution of a submitted portfolio piece and the applicant's previous work samples, raising concerns about originality and potential external assistance during the creation of the portfolio for the American Academy of Art entrance exam. What is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Publicly question the applicant about the discrepancy during their interview, demanding an immediate explanation without prior investigation. Option B. Overlook the observation, assuming it might be a stylistic evolution, and proceed with evaluating the portfolio as submitted without further inquiry. Option C. Immediately disqualify the applicant's portfolio piece and consider it a violation of the entrance exam's integrity, proceeding with a decision based on the remaining portfolio. Option D. Initiate a formal, confidential investigation into the discrepancy, gathering all relevant evidence and consulting the Academy's academic integrity policies before making any decision regarding the applicant's admission. The correct answer is D. Initiate a formal, confidential investigation into the discrepancy, gathering all relevant evidence and consulting the Academy's academic integrity policies before making any decision regarding the applicant's admission. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it involves a potential conflict between an individual's artistic expression and the established ethical guidelines of an academic institution. The American Academy of Art entrance exam, like many art institutions, aims to foster creativity while upholding standards of academic integrity and responsible conduct. The monitoring system's demonstration of a student potentially misrepresenting their work raises questions about honesty, originality, and the fairness of the admissions process. Careful judgment is required to balance the pursuit of artistic talent with the need for ethical admissions practices. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation into the observed discrepancy. This means gathering all relevant information, including the student's submitted portfolio, any evidence of external assistance, and the specific observations from the monitoring system. The goal is to determine, based on objective evidence and established academic integrity policies, whether a violation has occurred. This approach aligns with the ethical principles of fairness, due process, and upholding the integrity of the admissions process. It respects the student's right to be evaluated fairly while also protecting the institution from potential misrepresentation. The American Academy of Arts entrance exam guidelines, which would implicitly or explicitly cover academic honesty, would mandate such an investigative process before any disciplinary action or decision is made. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the student's application based solely on the monitoring system's observation, without further investigation. This fails to provide the student with due process and presumes guilt without evidence. It violates the ethical principle of fairness and could lead to an unjust outcome. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the observation altogether, which would compromise the integrity of the admissions process and potentially allow a student who has misrepresented their work to gain an unfair advantage over other applicants. This neglects the institution's responsibility to maintain high ethical standards. A third incorrect approach might be to confront the student aggressively or publicly without a proper investigation, which would be unprofessional, unethical, and could damage the institution's reputation. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes evidence-based judgment and adherence to established policies. This involves 1. Acknowledging the observation and its potential implications. 2. Initiating a confidential and impartial investigation to gather facts. 3. Consulting relevant institutional policies on academic integrity and admissions. 4. Evaluating the evidence objectively to determine if a violation has occurred. 5. Following the prescribed procedures for addressing any confirmed violations, ensuring fairness to the applicant. Question 17. Examination of the data shows that an applicant to the American Academy of Art entrance exam is preparing their portfolio. They have a strong technical foundation in drawing and painting, with several pieces demonstrating exceptional skill. They also have a few conceptual pieces that explore personal themes, but are less polished technically. The applicant is considering how best to present this work to highlight their strengths and potential for growth. Which of the following approaches to portfolio presentation is most likely to be viewed favorably by the admissions committee? Option A. Submit a comprehensive collection of all artwork created over the past 5 years, regardless of technical execution or thematic relevance. Option B. Include a detailed academic paper analyzing the historical influences on their chosen medium, with the artwork serving as mere illustrations. Option C. Focus exclusively on the technically perfect pieces, omitting any conceptual work that might be perceived as less refined. Option D. Present a curated selection of the most technically proficient works, accompanied by a brief artist statement that explains the inspiration and intent behind a few key pieces. Correct answer is D. Present a curated selection of the most technically proficient works, accompanied by a brief artist statement that explains the inspiration and intent behind a few key pieces. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only artistic talent, but also an understanding of the foundational principles that underpin artistic creation and communication, as assessed by the American Academy of Art entrance exam. The challenge lies in discerning which approach to presenting a portfolio best aligns with the exam's objectives, which are to evaluate an applicant's potential for rigorous artistic study. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that showcases not just technical skill, but also conceptual thinking and a clear artistic voice, as these are crucial for success in a formal art education environment. The correct approach involves presenting a portfolio that demonstrates a range of skills and a clear artistic intent, supported by a brief, insightful artist statement. This approach is correct because it directly addresses the likely evaluation criteria of an art academy entrance exam: technical proficiency, creative problem solving, conceptual development, and the ability to articulate one's artistic vision. The artist statement, when concise and focused, provides context and demonstrates critical thinking about one's own work, which is a key indicator of readiness for higher-level art education. This aligns with the implicit goal of such exams to identify students who can benefit from structured learning and contribute thoughtfully to an artistic community. Presenting a portfolio solely focused on technical mastery without any conceptual explanation is an incorrect approach. This fails to demonstrate the applicant's ability to think critically about their art or to communicate the ideas behind their work, which is essential for artistic growth and for engaging with instructors and peers in an academic setting. It suggests a potential lack of self-awareness or an inability to connect technical skill with meaning. Another incorrect approach is to include a lengthy, overly academic theoretical essay that overshadows the artwork itself. This is problematic because the primary purpose of an entrance exam portfolio is to showcase artistic output. An overly theoretical essay can indicate a misunderstanding of the exam's focus, potentially suggesting that the applicant prioritizes abstract discourse over tangible artistic creation and execution. It may also be perceived as an attempt to compensate for perceived weaknesses in the artwork itself. Finally, submitting a portfolio that is a random collection of diverse projects without any thematic coherence or clear narrative is also an incorrect approach. This lacks focus and makes it difficult for the evaluators to discern a consistent artistic direction or a developed personal style. It suggests a lack of curation and strategic presentation, which are important skills for any emerging artist seeking to build a professional practice. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves understanding the specific goals and evaluation criteria of the institution or opportunity. Applicants should research the institution's mission, program focus, and any stated guidelines for portfolio submission. They should then curate their work to best showcase their strengths in relation to those criteria, ensuring that their presentation, including any accompanying statements, is clear, concise, and directly relevant to demonstrating their potential for growth and contribution within that specific academic or professional context. Question 18. Assessment of an applicant's portfolio for the American Academy of Art entrance exam requires careful consideration of the origin and development of the submitted artwork. An applicant has created a series of digital illustrations for their portfolio. During the process, they received significant technical guidance from a professional artist friend on advanced software techniques, and a classmate helped refine the composition of one piece. The applicant is unsure how to present this information to the admissions committee. Which of the following approaches best upholds the principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct expected by the American Academy of Art? Option A. Submit the portfolio and state in the application essay that the entire portfolio was created solely by the applicant, emphasizing their independent mastery of all techniques. Option B. Submit the portfolio with a detailed addendum, clearly outlining the specific nature and extent of the assistance received from the professional artist friend and the classmate, specifying which aspects of the work benefited from this collaboration. Option C. Submit the portfolio without any mention of the assistance, assuming that technical skill development through collaboration is a normal part of artistic growth and not something that needs to be disclosed. Option D. Submit the portfolio and include a brief, vague statement that some external feedback was considered, without elaborating on the specific nature or impact of the assistance. The correct answer is B. Submit the portfolio with a detailed addendum, clearly outlining the specific nature and extent of the assistance received from the professional artist friend and the classmate, specifying which aspects of the work benefited from this collaboration. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge for an applicant to the American Academy of Art entrance exam by testing their understanding of academic integrity and the ethical implications of submitting work that is not entirely their own. The core difficulty lies in distinguishing between acceptable collaboration and outright misrepresentation, which is crucial for maintaining the validity of the admissions process and fostering a culture of honesty within the academic community. Careful judgment is required to identify the boundaries of ethical artistic practice in an educational context. The correct approach involves the applicant acknowledging any significant assistance received in the creation of their portfolio. This demonstrates honesty, self-awareness, and respect for the admissions committee's evaluation process. By being transparent about the collaborative elements, the applicant allows the committee to assess their individual skills and contributions accurately, rather than being misled by work that may not solely reflect their own abilities. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principle of academic honesty, which is paramount in any educational institution. The American Academy of Art, like all reputable art schools, expects applicants to present their own work and to be truthful about its origins. An incorrect approach would be to submit the portfolio without any mention of the external assistance. This constitutes academic dishonesty and misrepresentation. It undermines the integrity of the entrance exam by presenting work that does not accurately reflect the applicant's capabilities. The ethical failure here is deception, which can lead to the applicant being disqualified or, if admitted, facing disciplinary action for dishonesty. Another incorrect approach would be to claim that the work was entirely self-created, even if significant portions were done by others. This is a direct lie and a severe breach of academic integrity. The ethical failure is outright fraud, which is unacceptable in any academic setting and would likely result in immediate rejection and potential blacklisting from future applications. A further incorrect approach might be to downplay the assistance received to the point where it becomes misleading. While not an outright lie, this approach still lacks the transparency required for ethical conduct. The ethical failure is a lack of full disclosure, which can still lead to a misinformed evaluation by the admissions committee. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a commitment to honesty and transparency. Applicants should always ask themselves, does this submission accurately represent my own skills and efforts? If the answer is uncertain, it is always best to err on the side of full disclosure. Understanding the specific guidelines of the American Academy of Art entrance exam regarding portfolio submissions is crucial. When in doubt, seeking clarification from the admissions office is a responsible and ethical step. The ultimate goal is to present oneself authentically and to build a foundation of trust with the institution. Question 19. Which approach would be most ethically and professionally appropriate for a faculty advisor at the American Academy of Art to take upon discovering significant stylistic and compositional similarities between a student's submitted work and that of a well-known contemporary artist without explicit attribution? Option A. Overlook the similarities, assuming they are coincidental or a result of unconscious influence, and proceed with grading the work as submitted. Option B. Directly confront the student with the evidence of similarities, explain the Academy's policies on academic integrity and plagiarism, and discuss the importance of original work and proper attribution, offering guidance on how to address the situation. Option C. Discreetly modify the student's work to remove the problematic similarities before it is formally graded, to avoid any potential issues. Option D. Immediately report the student to the Academic Integrity Committee for plagiarism, without speaking to them first. The correct answer is B. Directly confront the student with the evidence of similarities, explain the Academy's policies on academic integrity and plagiarism, and discuss the importance of original work and proper attribution, offering guidance on how to address the situation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the student's artistic vision and potential with the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and prevent plagiarism. The faculty advisor is in a position of trust and responsibility, needing to guide the student while upholding the standards of the American Academy of Art. The dilemma lies in how to address the student's actions without unduly stifling their creativity or unfairly penalizing them, while also ensuring the integrity of the academic process. The correct approach involves a direct and honest conversation with the student about the discovered similarities, emphasizing the Academy's policies on academic integrity and plagiarism. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the principles of academic honesty expected at an institution like the American Academy of Art. It prioritizes education and remediation over immediate punitive action, offering the student an opportunity to understand the gravity of their actions and learn from the experience. This aligns with the implicit ethical duty of educators to foster a learning environment that values originality and ethical conduct. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the similarities, thereby tacitly condoning potential plagiarism and undermining the Academy's commitment to original work. This failure to act violates the ethical responsibility to uphold academic standards and could set a precedent for future academic dishonesty. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately report the student for plagiarism without first speaking with them. This bypasses the educational aspect of the situation and could lead to an unfair disciplinary outcome without allowing the student to explain or rectify their actions. It fails to consider the possibility of unintentional similarities or the student's willingness to learn and correct their behavior, which is a crucial part of the mentorship role. A further incorrect approach would be to alter the student's work to remove the similarities without their knowledge or consent. This is a deceptive practice that disrespects the student's ownership of their creative process and fails to address the root cause of the issue, which is the student's understanding of originality and citation. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a commitment to transparency, fairness, and education. First, gather all relevant information and evidence. Second, consult relevant institutional policies on academic integrity and plagiarism. Third, engage in a direct, private, and respectful conversation with the student to understand their perspective and explain the concerns. Fourth, clearly articulate the Academy's expectations and the consequences of academic dishonesty. Finally, determine an appropriate course of action that balances remediation, education, and the upholding of academic standards. Question 20. Implementation of an applicant's portfolio submission for the American Academy of Art entrance exam requires careful consideration of ethical presentation. An applicant has a strong portfolio, but a significant portion of the work was completed several years ago during a period of intense personal artistic exploration. The applicant is concerned that this older work might not fully reflect their current artistic direction and skill level. Which approach best adheres to the principles of academic integrity and fair evaluation for the entrance exam? Option A. Exclude all older work from the portfolio and only include the most recent pieces, even if it means the portfolio is less comprehensive than it could be. Option B. Submit the portfolio including the older work without any additional explanation, assuming the admissions committee will understand the progression of their artistic journey. Option C. Create new pieces that are stylistically similar to the older work to present a more cohesive and current representation of their artistic abilities. Option D. Submit the portfolio as is, including the older work, with a brief, optional note to the admissions committee explaining the context of the older pieces and how they represent a foundational period of development. The correct answer is D. Submit the portfolio as is, including the older work, with a brief, optional note to the admissions committee explaining the context of the older pieces and how they represent a foundational period of development. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of ethical conduct and academic integrity, which are foundational principles for admission to an art academy. The challenge lies in navigating a situation where personal circumstances might tempt an applicant to misrepresent their qualifications or experiences, thereby compromising the integrity of the admissions process. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all submitted materials are truthful and accurately reflect the applicant's abilities and background, upholding the standards expected of future art professionals. The correct approach involves a commitment to absolute honesty and transparency in all application materials. This aligns with the American Academy of Art's implied ethical framework for its students, which would necessitate integrity in their artistic practice and professional dealings. By truthfully representing their portfolio and any prior art education or experience, the applicant upholds academic honesty and demonstrates the character expected of individuals entering a field that values authenticity and originality. This approach respects the admissions committee's need for accurate information to assess suitability and ensures a fair evaluation process for all applicants. An incorrect approach would be to embellish or fabricate details about artistic achievements or educational background. This failure directly contravenes the principle of academic integrity, which is paramount in any educational institution, especially one focused on artistic development. Such misrepresentation undermines the trust between the applicant and the institution and devalues the efforts of other applicants who have been truthful. Furthermore, it sets a precedent for dishonest practices, which is antithetical to the ethical standards of the art world. Another incorrect approach would be to submit a portfolio that does not accurately represent the applicant's current skill level, perhaps by including work from a significantly earlier period without clear context, or by presenting work that is not entirely their own. This misleads the admissions committee about the applicant's readiness for the program and their potential for growth. It also fails to acknowledge the importance of presenting one's authentic artistic voice and development. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a thorough review of all application requirements and a clear understanding of the expectations for honesty and accuracy. Applicants should reflect on their genuine skills and experiences and present them truthfully. If there are any doubts about how to best represent their qualifications ethically, seeking clarification from the admissions office is a responsible step. The guiding principle should always be to present oneself authentically and to uphold the highest standards of integrity, recognizing that a foundation of honesty is crucial for a successful and ethical career in the arts.